I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey everybody, welcome to AfterBuzz TV Spotlight on.
Your AfterBuzz TV.
It was great though.
It sounded good. I was on board. I was ready to watch.
All right. Thank you.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey everybody, welcome to AfterBuzz TV Spotlight on. This is the show where we talk to the people both in front and behind the camera that bring all that great entertainment that you get to see at home or on your mobile streaming device. I'm Frank Moran. My guests today are two brothers who have been working on some of the best shows that you've seen on TV, from Seinfeld, That 70s Show, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Notes from the Underbelly, Dave, or Lab Rats if you're a big Disney Channel fan. Their new show is just started April 10th on Netflix called Brews Brothers. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Greg and Jeff Schaffer. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So I guess, in this time where we're all kind of our separate places here, I'm respecting the brotherly aesthetic choice in the background, both nice Spartan white walls in the background. Is that reflective of both your personal aesthetics, kind of Spartan, kind of lean and pared down?
If I flip the camera around, you'll see all the dead bodies.
Yeah, no. With the family and everyone being in the same house 24/7, let's just say this is the cleaner wall. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe not dead bodies, but I'm not turning this thing around.
Well, speaking of family, the two of you grew up in Ohio, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Midwest.
All right. So
outside of Cleveland, not Shaker Heights, because that's always the next question.
Oh, there you go.
Cleveland. Oh, Shaker Heights? No, way further out, Warren, Youngstown area, where the farms meet the empty steel mills.
So who first got the TV bug between the two of you? Who was the first one to say, like, oh, wait, this is kind of something that I could possibly pursue as a career?
Well, Greg was on a soap opera.
Yeah,
As an actor. And he was on a soap opera as an actor. And he was on Broadway. So he was the theater guy.
Greg,
a long time ago.
What led to the acting bug biting you?
I don't know. I mean, I like sports. I like doing theater, and somehow I was in the right play at the right time, and kind of got shipped over to New York and did a few things until I was a kid actor. That's why I'm crazy now. Okay, enough said. Somehow I got out. And then in college, we were in college together, and I'd say Jeff probably had the first writing bug.
Yeah.
And eventually I caught on as well. Yeah.
Interesting. And so, Jeff, what led it to? I'm sure both of you grew up watching all the fantastic TV shows, both by yourselves and with your parents. But what was the moment that made you realize, like, oh yeah, hey, I could write some of these things that I love watching as well?
I mean, I grew up. One of my strongest memories about watching television growing up was just hating the sitcoms.
Really?
Ugh, they were awful. I mean, I remember liking Soap. I really liked Monty Python, and I liked Peter Sellers. But I remember watching these other ones and just like Three's Company and things like that, and just going, "This stinks. This makes me angry. I hate this."
Were you more of a drama guy?
No, I just thought they weren't funny.
Okay.
So
I like them
college, but I never thought I was going to be a writer. Like our grandfather was a doctor, our dad's a doctor. So we, and then they sent, two kids to Harvard who used it as a trade school. So in school, you started, I was on the Lampoon, which is the comedy magazine. And you read all the people that were before you, and like Conan and Mike Reese and Alex, all these great writers. And then you realize, oh, that's a job. You can actually have a job like writing for television. And I thought, well, I don't really think I'm going to be very good at anything else. Let's try that. So that's how, it was like, it just seemed like really fun.
So, Jeff, did you set the gauntlet down in terms of attending Harvard? Did you go first, and then Greg, did you realize like, all right, I guess I have to go because I mean,
Yeah, gosh, I did go up and visit while I was still in high school, and somehow I liked a lot of his friends, well, more than him, and yeah. So I think after that I was ready to go, and yeah, then we crossed over for a couple of years, and it was fun. We had a great time, and yeah, I got the bug as well, writing bug, maybe a little bit later after that. Still did some theater there, and yeah, to sit around a room and make jokes for a living seemed okay.
Greg, did you also work on the Lampoon as well?
I didn't. I was doing a lot more theater at the time. This thing called the Hasty Pudding, and singing groups and acting, and then
he traveled around the world with an a cappella group.
Yes. There was a lot. There were other things that kept me busy, no question.
An a cappella group, man, is that something that you still like to enjoy today? Like, still sing, or you're like, that was a time in my life that I enjoyed, and I put that away?
Hard.
Oh.
I think a lot of that now is done vicariously through my kids. I will watch, and yeah, no, there was time.
It's a time in Greg's life I enjoy talking about.
You can see. Yeah, we've hit on two areas between the kid acting and the singing that
This is great. This is fun.
Yeah. Jeff, I've always wondered for people that have worked for the Lampoon, what is the experience like when you're actually on campus working on it? I mean, because so many talented people come out of that and go on to great things, but while you're on campus, are you kind of BMOC, or is it kind of like, it's a cool thing that some people know about?
Now that's funny. It has this building that was built in 1909 by that is a castle. It's right in the middle of a street. It's an amazing place. It's an amazingly fun thing to be in, and occasionally it puts out a magazine.
What's a magazine?
Yeah, exactly. But it's the practice for comedy writing is invaluable, because you learn how to shag out a lot of bad habits, because people are reading your stuff just going, no, don't do that, and you're reading all of these other really talented comedy writers who have come before you. So it's really good practice.
That's a good point. It sounds like it's like at one of the first writers' rooms. Yeah, you're getting used to harsh criticism.
Yes, for sure.
Well, because I'd always talk to people that had gone who went to Second City, and they say like, oh, we grew up, and we as we were there at the company, we were doing the old Stephen Colbert or their old Steve Carell bits, and they're following in the footsteps of all these classic sketches that they had written, and they're just performing them. But writing is a little different, because you're reading all these great things, but you have to then, of course, write your own thing. So how long was it before you started feeling comfortable like reading all these great pieces, but developing your own style and your own view of comedy? Well,
you have to write a lot of pieces to even get into the Lampoon, and there's very strict guidelines. There's like nothing, nothing particularly timely. No like pun stuff. Like they just say no. You have to like generate stuff from whole cloth, and you write 3 pieces, and then there's a cutoff. Then you write another 3 pieces, and then there's a cutoff, and then there's a vote. Like you've written comedy pieces for a semester to even get on staff, and and every year there's a few people that are great, and so here's what I would say it does. It doesn't like give you a job when you come out, but at least you've had a lot of practice before you've done it. So in terms of your own style, you're developing your own style from the very moment you're trying out, because that's what they want. They're like, oh, that's a copy of this. Don't do that. You can do a parody of this, but you have to do it in your own voice. So from day one, you're being taught to figure out what you're good at.
Well, speaking of comedy and your sensibilities and your styles, where do you think the two of you align in terms of comedic sensibilities, and what things do you differ on in terms of comedic sensibilities?
That's interesting. I mean, we I may look older, by the way. I may look older, by the way, but I am a couple years younger. And since I have lived my entire life with him, there are some, for better or worse, comedic sensibilities that we've just had, from being two idiot brothers growing up together in Ohio. Specifically, things may have branched out in different ways as we, went on to different shows, and I learned from different people than he did. And then, but we've kind of gone like this throughout our couple decades of writing. We've done some movie punch ups together and some other things. So I would say that, he reads all my stuff, I read all his stuff, and they're certainly more intertwined than, even though this is really the first big thing that we've done together.
Also, I would say comedic sensibility, it changes project to project too, right? Every project's not the same show. There's definitely things that, we, each of us like that the other one's like, ugh, we're not doing that again. But like, I'm like, yeah.
How much time do you have?
But the sensibility of a show and the show itself are the things that are married. Like so it's more about being true to the show, which you have to sort of calibrate what that is. But like, Curb is different from Dave. The League is different from Curb, even though there's tremendous similarities, but like each show has to find its own voice. So it doesn't seem like the other shows.
Yeah. I guess in a sense, I know actors would say, for whatever character they're playing, even though if it might not be similar to who they are as a person, they've got to find something within that character that they can resonate with and identify with. So that's the same thing when it comes to writing for a show. If you're kind of aligning your sensibilities to what the show needs, you may not completely agree with every sensibility, but you've got to at least find some hook into it that you can go, all right, I can relate to it in this fashion. I can write from there. Well,
just to talk about Brews Brothers, Greg created the show and he was talking about these characters. And the thing that I identified with immediately was the older, arrogant brother, Adam, for some reason. But I thought, this is a fun character. This is a character I love. This is if Ruxin, had grown up and become a beer snob, this is what it would be like. So that, to me, that was the gateway for me being really interested in the show, was the Adam character. And just because I love writing people who are just, they would be awful if they weren't so funny, or they're awful and they're funny. But whether it's George Costanza, Larry David, Ruxin, like Adam Rodman, like these are fun characters for me to write that I can really sink my teeth into.
And Frank, I think you hit something else though with just personalizing though. Certainly with this show, there's a lot of my own experience when it comes with the fraternal relationship and my love of beer. That stuff comes naturally, but I've been on a lot of shows where it is a little bit harder to connect. So you do want to find that, there's always going to be something personal that you're going to bring hopefully to the show, whether something, even if it was, an experience I had as a child actor that I might be able to weave into, say, Veronica's Closet 20 years ago.
Well, that's great, because I noticed, Jeff, if you look at his, the shows that he's worked on, I can see more similarities with that. Greg, with you, you've got Veronica's Closet, that 70s show, but you've also got Lab Rats, where it's more Disney programming. So what's it like going to those extremes where one's more kid-friendly, where it's maybe more lessons imparted as opposed to
I worked with a lot of, even in some of the kid stuff, I've worked with a lot of really talented writers. Some friends of mine who created that were on that 70s show with me. And we joke about it. We a lot of times we know the joke we want to tell or the story we want to tell, but both our hands are tied behind our back because of the audience. So how do we still tell it and hopefully have it be a little meaningful on for more than just a kid audience? And that was kind of the challenge and also the excitement of it while doing it.
Well, I know some writers like Neil Gaiman, who did Sandman and stuff, said that he, if you just give him full carte blanche in terms of a project, he gets paralyzed. But if you give him certain restrictions or box to work within, that's when he can excel, because he knows what he can and can't do. So for you working on something like Lab Rats, does that, having both hands tied behind your back, does it, well, it might not be the exciting thing.
No, but it does. It depends on the It really does depend on the show. I think it also depends on the quality of the show itself and the other writers you're working with, where I think that was a very positive experience for me. They all haven't been positive experiences, but I've had, it's more of a blue collar career, and that, sometimes you take a job because it's the job, but there are ways of, there are ways of finding something about the show that you can either personalize or, and then hopefully make funny from it.
That's crazy to hear that about Neil Gaiman, by the way. He's so prolific.
Yeah, which amazed me. But if you just give him a broad swath, he's like, I don't know.
Huh.
Wow.
So for Jeff, for you working with Larry David, starting with Seinfeld, I'm always curious. Working on Seinfeld, do you already come in for yourself with a predisposition to kind of analyzing life's minutia, or does working on that show really kind of bring that out in you by the time you leave it?
I mean, the only way to get on that show is to write. I mean, Alec Berg and I got on that show because we submitted stories, and the show, just like her, it just eats stories. It eats story. You're like, it was never a show about nothing. It was a show about like packing so many stories in and weaving them together. So we started in season 6, and Larry and Jerry, like they did every year, needed good stories, and they liked our stories. So then it's like, well, can you write it or not? And we could actually write it too. So that is what allowed us to stay and be useful from then on. Because you could actually, like our second episode, which was The Label Maker, they basically took that script and brought it to the table. So we're helpful. So we could not just come up with the ideas, but we could actually write for Larry and Jerry. And look, I've been working with Larry now for 25 years on and off. So he's like, all my moves. And it's like, and so I can write for him like you breathe. It's just, I know this, I know that, I mean, although by the way, every season he still surprises me. I don't know all his moves at all. He still does things where I go, I never saw that coming.
Well, for you, Jeff, because you've also working with Dave Bird, and I was reading an article where you're discussing with Larry in terms of once you wrap up a season, then it becomes that kind of negotiating conversation, like, do I have an idea? Maybe, maybe not. And you kind of, because you said that Larry doesn't want to do anything unless he knows it's going to be perfect. He's got everything beat out. But then Dave, you were saying that he doesn't want to leave any stone left unturned in terms of doing the show. And you're like, sometimes you just gotta maybe don't turn that stone over. What's it like working with two of these gentlemen at very different aspects of their career? One that's more up and coming, and one that's had this incredible legacy. Yeah,
Dave is a no stones unturned kind of guy, and literally his tombstone is going to just say, "Turn me over." So, and part of that's just from being new. It's like whether it's and this stuff shows up the most in casting and in editing, where it's like, I like this, but I need to see everything else to make sure that this was the right thing. Whereas Larry, who's done it enough to know his instincts, goes like, I like this. End of story. Doesn't mean he won't hear other stuff. Happy to hear things, happy to try things, but he knows, he's just done it more, and he knows when it's right. Now, they actually have more similarities than differences. And in the fact that Dave is playing himself, Larry's playing himself, or versions of themselves. But the benefit of that is that there's no false moves, right? When Dave, from minute one, he knows himself well enough, and he knows what he's good at. And when he's improvising, and there was a ton of improvising, he's doing it as Dave Bird. So you're not worried about, wait, what are we doing? This doesn't even feel like the show. Like, it is him. It is the show. So that made it very easy. And it's just, and that's actually, there's a lot of, also I will say there's a lot of Larry and Dave story-wise. like, yes, he's a rapper who can't record if his nose gets stuffed. But like, if he were just an accountant, like Dave Bird's interactions with the world are very Larry-like. And that's what drew me to do the show in the first place.
So as we're getting close to wrapping up here with Brews Brothers, Jeff, Greg, I'm actually interested because when you come up with the idea, you pitch it to Jeff. Jeff, you're like, yeah, all right, I can relate to this. Do you go to Netflix with 8 episodes plotted out, kind of beat out, or does Netflix say, I'll give you 8 episodes, and then you just adjust your pitch accordingly?
Somewhere in between the two, basically. Yeah, we definitely had, we did a lot of the work beforehand when it came to like where we the beginning, middle, and end of the season and even beyond. You know, not just like the arc itself, but really like the character development too. So we would definitely have more than just pitching, say, a pilot out ready to go.
Yeah, you got to do all that work. You got to do all that work for the pitch. Like the pitch can't just be the pilot because you don't have enough time to flesh out and to say all the things you want to say to even show a network what it's supposed to be. So all that work you do, like we do a lot of work in our pitches. So there's way more than the pilot, but it's all useful work because you need it to go forward.
I got a chance to watch the first 4 episodes. And what I liked about it is when we get to the monks episode and you start seeing the callbacks start coming as a Cicerone. You start like, this is still going on? Really? We're doing this? It was fun to start seeing the beats start coming back in again. Well, let's say I had a chance to do some improv with Mike Castle many years ago back at IO. So what's it been like working with Mike Castle? I enjoyed playing with him. What's it been like directing?
I will say one through line, and maybe it's less writing sensibility than just style that I certainly Jeff and I do have in common now, and I think just from days on the league and Curb is the type of actor that we're looking for, and I think that is that value-added actor, someone like Mike Castle, who, yes, there's scripts to all these shows, and we work on the scripts and the stories, but at the end of the day, they're just a jumping off point, and we really want to have these just, you know, phenomenal improv actors that can bring something else to the table. And I mean, no one exemplifies that more than Mike Castle. He's just a dream and a sweetheart.
And by the way, when you were with him before, was he a chess aficionado at that point?
No, he was not.
Okay, so now imagine Mike Castle, who is just Quicksilver, right? He's one of the quickest improvisers. He's withering, and he's also now like so good at chess. And so he just wants to play everybody. And he is just humiliating you. As he's destroying you in chess, he's also humiliating you verbally. It is one of the lowest points of your life.
It's chess with Mike Castle.
I am glad I missed that. As we're wrapping up, I know you guys are more behind the camera, but you've both done at least one role in front of the camera. So I know you've had angry caller, loud patron for you, Greg, in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, sure. And then phone caller number 2 for you, Jeff. Reviewing can you both take a step back and decide who was the better thespian? Greg, I got to give it to you probably because of your upbringing.
Yeah. Greg's a way better actor. I did that as a favor. I never want to be in front of the camera. I have no desire. I want to sit behind the camera and tell people what to do.
Camera right now.
What? This is. I'm not even comfortable with this. So, but yeah, Greg's way better at that stuff. But like that's everyone always goes, "How come you're not in the show?" Because I don't want to be.
That's what the funny people are for.
Yeah.
One last thing, Greg. I know so one of your credits there was wardrobe for a film called Lover's Leap.
That is I will say this, that sometimes on IMDb, there are mistakes. That is a mistake. I've never done wardrobe, but there was another mistake on there that was on there for about 6 years. Somehow, one of my old college buddies put up a headshot of me from like when I was 18 years old. And I couldn't get it down, asked my agents, my lawyers for about 5 or 6 years. This is all through like my late 30s, early 40s. It's down now.
It was
it was one of those swab, like, eyebrow up, 18, about, 50 pounds less cheek. So I don't mind the wardrobe one.
I love that you've kept it up though. Even if it's a false credit, the fact that it's there, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Real hyphenate.
Gentlemen, it's been great talking with you. I enjoyed watching Brews Brothers. I also like the fact that it's seeing a little league payoff where you see Keven show up in the playing as the distributor and the pilot. Always a nice kind of handoff from a more established show to a new show kind of falling in the same track. So that was a really cool moment.
Very, very funny, Steve Ranazizi. The man's a pro. Loved having him.
Thanks so much. Thank you. That was great.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, I could talk to you more about your careers because you've done so many great stuff. I'm angry that this has to end so soon.
Go back to your comic books.
All right, Jeff. Thanks so much. Guys, enjoy it. Everybody, thanks for joining this episode of AfterBuzz TV Spotlight. Spotlight On. My guests have been Greg and Jeff Schaffer. Check out the show, Brews Brothers, streaming now on Netflix. It's 8 episodes of hilarity, so you owe it to yourself to check it out. We'll see you next time.
Good.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not